So, this will be my second presentation on augmented reality in the form of augmented reality. My first, just a few months ago, focused on new spaces for art and performance created through AR. Today I'm going to take a more historical focus. But first, let me quote my previous presentation to lay out the territory. So this is me a few months ago. I'm interested in one newish medium in which the context and circulation of artwork is transformed. Self-evident in the mode of presentation, this is what's called either augmented reality or mixed reality. It is where virtual content is overlaid or mixed with actual content. Already, just using those two words, I have confounded any critical description of what we are talking about. Actual and virtual are ontologically and epistemologically loaded, especially when the actual, as it is now, is presented as live mediation through video, and the virtual is just pre-recorded video of that same subject earlier. But we can rope things in a bit through some examples. So, a card. We can at least go back to 1994 and Geoffrey Shaw's exhibited work, The Golden Calf. Quoting a description from the website Leonardo, in the golden calf, an object in real space, an empty plinth, becomes the location and ground for a synthetic sculptural object in electronic space, the golden calf. The description then goes on to describe the apparatus, something really essential to the delineation of this medium, and notes the calf has shiny skin and the viewer can see reflections in it of the actual gallery space around the installation. So it is specific to the site and the screen's manipulation within that space. The usual apparatus we might diagram like this 1997 diagram by Ronald T. Azuma. The diagram is full of gear. Gear is essential. Otherwise, we start to ask, what isn't augmentation of the real? For example, we both look out a window. I describe the lives of the people I know walking below. Isn't my voice and language an augmentation? What about Janet Cardiff's audio walks? So it quickly becomes everything, even the score in a movie. So the gear is important, and I don't think this is totally arbitrary. There is something about the novelty of technology that is part of the particular experience we're referring to. It evokes, not just for me, pre-cinematic stage illusion performances where the whole idea of smoke and mirrors, Pepper's Ghost and automatons and so on, was not knowing exactly where and what the technology was or where the borders of illusion lay. A certain novelty of wonderment always chasing the technological edge. As Eric Barnow describes, or as the life of George Millet describes, a chase that led straight into the film camera, cinema, and the near extinction of the stage magician. Okay, let's stop there. What was an aside comment in my earlier presentation, the comparison to the Pepper's Ghost illusion and early adoption of film technology by stage magicians such as Millet, is now the subject of discussion. Eric Barnow's book, The Magician and the Cinema, was adapted into a quite good short story by Stephen Milhauser, which was in turn adapted into a fairly poor feature film. The gloss of Milhauser's story, Eisenheim the Illusionist, is that a turn-of-the-century Viennese stage magician invents the illusion of virtual images until he too becomes an image that disappears. It is the extinction of stage magic Eric Bernau describes, a "this killed that" thesis on the sudden turn when magicians using the magic of cinema realized that the one character no longer needed was the magician himself. Chasing the technological edge was not new. Jean-Eugène Robert Houdin used electromagnets in 1856 to create an illusion of spiritual power in French Algeria. In the 1960s, John Henry Pepper used new rolled plate glass techniques for the fabrication of the clean, reflective plane required for the Pepper's ghost illusion. And the long use of magic lanterns and stage magic led intuitively to the adoption of Lumiere's new technology at the end of the century. Gunning quotes Méliès, naming it a trick extraordinaire. The camera usurped the role of the magician, being the instigator of the tricks. Illusion was fundamental to the filmic medium, and almost immediately the illusion itself became a stage, enfolding illusions within illusions, establishing diegetic reality and breaching that reality with effects tricks, the magician resolutely behind the camera, unseen. I don't think cinema ever resolved the two vectors of Lumiere-like mediated simulacrum and Méliès-like mediated illusion. We can look at contemporary pairs of popular films: 1945, Rome Open City and State Fair; 1954, On the Waterfront, Godzilla; 1973, Mean Streets, Enter the Dragon, and also another Godzilla; 1993, 2008. It seems to me more a popular tug of war between the mediated image as real and the mediated image as theater of illusions, as Tom Gunning puts it. But there is in the past 2 decades a certain coming together as digital effects move towards simulacrum. Effects have gone from this to this. It is no longer a representation of fantasy, but a simulation of it. Not so much a trick within an illusionistic medium, but a seamless illusion in which you don't know the boundaries between mediated actual and synthetic virtual. And using similar technology over the past decade, augmented reality is bringing about a renaissance of a territory left behind with stage magic: actuality. But for a century of cinema, audiences' bodies were in comfortable theater seats and darkened chambers with luminous screens regularly framed. No conflation of performing bodies with media challenging the viewer to find the border between actual and illusion. This abandoned arena was adopted in the art gallery. 70s video art, like the tapes and installations of Peter Campus, created mediated stages for performances that had to be puzzled out, confounding the mediated real and the virtual. In later interactive work, much of which referenced phantasmagoria and magic, artists like Zoe Beloff, Tony Dove, and David Rokeby created machines that combined live input with illusion. Live video stands in for the magician's stage, a mediated actual within which tricks are played with the borders between real and illusion. This type of live media augmentation returns the actual, albeit mediated. It has more in common with Pepper's ghost than with the train leaving the station. The AR art and design work of Helen Papagiannis of York University's Future Cinema Lab takes a direct fascination with the cinema of attractions and magic. She created a Toronto Science Centre exhibition, The Amazing Cinemagician, which presents viewers with ghostly images of Méliès films based on their interactions with AR markers on an installed screen. Her more recent augmented reality pop-up book creates phantasmagoria-like illusions of virtual bugs crawling across real hands and pages through an iPad viewer.
Julian Oliver's AR object Level Head resembles in function more than anything a turn-of-the-century automaton, a real object that simulates life-like behaviors when viewed through your webcam. It is both a toy to be marketed and an art object. And on stages, illusionistic performance has adopted the new technology, again like stage magicians, confounding ontological borders between actual, virtual, and mediated.
Augmented reality is the melding of the real world with computer-generated imagery. It seems the perfect medium to investigate magic.
Where even just this month, the Pepper's Ghost illusion makes major headlines in giving life to a dead rapper. Perhaps the enthrallment of AR is just a temporary fascination, with our changing distinctions between objective and virtual. Maybe it is just a way for the audience to work through their changing perceptions of an ever more mediated world. Or perhaps it is a return to an unframed mediation, an illusion of objects, which has always been desired and is now possible. Regardless, it makes me think of a question I have of Plato's allegory of the cave. If a person raised on shadows as reality were given their freedom, would they really run around in the sunshine of Plato's ideal? Wouldn't they instead see their own shadow against the wall, take that as reality, and call themselves God? Isn't the allegory told that way closer to the experience of our contemporary mediated lives?